wrong now. So I think basically so far everything that could go wrong has gone wrong.
Okay.
But we're here finally back with I'm with Stargate Genius, and I am extremely excited today because we're talking to Romain Charles, who was an epiphany to me. There's all this stuff going on I had no idea was even happening, let alone that one man was doing it all. So if you wouldn't mind, Romain, would you sort of introduce yourself and let us know, who you are and what you do, because their minds are going to be blown.
Okay, thank you. Well, thanks for welcoming me first. And yeah, my name is Romain Charles. Where do I start? From training,
yeah, seriously, where do you start? It's so true. There's so much stuff.
Yeah, I will try to put some blocks, and you will tell me which one you want to dive in. But so I am a mechanical engineer by training. I worked for 6.5 years in the automotive industry as a quality engineer and then manager. And in 2010, I was selected by the European Space Agency to simulate a round trip to Mars. So in other words, I spent 520 days confined with 5 other guys to answer a big question. And the question is man psychologically and physiologically able to endure the confinement of a trip to Mars? Just spoiling a little bit, the mission was a success because we were 6 when we entered the modules, and we were still 6 when we exited 1.5 years later.
I was going to ask.
We didn't kill each other, and we are still working, and we were still working efficiently together, and that's the success. That's it. I mean, plenty of other things happened, but that was the main success. Thanks to that, I could enter the space field that I was passionate about, and I worked for more than 7 years at the European Astronaut Center as crew support engineer. So my role then was to facilitate the daily life of the astronauts so that they can focus on their mission.
Right.
So space food, communication with the family when they are in space, launch and landing campaigns, mainly from Baikonur, Kazakhstan. I followed all that up. And after that, I started a new path, let's say, a bit closer to new technologies, and I spent 2.5 years in Toulouse, in France, to work at the Spaceship FR. It's a small team that is preparing the future of space exploration, and I'm continuing this path because now I'm coordinating the Spaceship ECSAT. ECSAT being the European Space Agency's site in the UK, and we still work on new technologies. The whole purpose of those small teams is to, as I said, prepare the future of space exploration. And so we imagine ourselves, we are on the moon, we are on Mars. What are the technologies needed to live and work there? And especially, what are the technology gaps that still exist, so that we can try to fill those gaps?
So that's kind of the Skunkworks that you're working on. They referred to it as a Skunkwork, which I loved. So you're basically, as things come up, you explore them. So you're dreaming.
Exactly. I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I feel quite lucky. So we here in the UK, we focus a bit more on robotics, on mixed reality, and astronaut assistant. And we test. Basically, it's little project, little sparkle here and there, and we see which one makes sense, which one becomes a little flame, and we try to kindle it so that we can bring it to the branches of ESA that can bring it to space.
And who are you working with? Are these students? Are these people who are established, or a combination?
In the DNA of the spaceships, we have 4 spaceships around Europe, one in Germany, France, UK, and Poland, the latest one. We work a lot with young actives. So yes, students are doing internships here, PhD students, research fellows, young actives. At ESA, we have this program called ESA Graduate Trainees. And so with all these young actives, as they will be the one using those technologies on the moon and on Mars, it makes sense for them to have the first taste of that and to try the ones that will work on it.
Do you see a different perspective from the younger people coming in to this stuff, or is it? I mean, do they have different priorities? Do they have different takes on this stuff so far?
They do have. Yeah, I mean, personally, they keep me on my toes for sure, because they want to move fast. They have this dynamism and this energy, and the European Space Agency is quite a big agency, so you have to go through certain layers, and the whole purpose is to find compromises on that. But their views, the main thing is that they are using the tools that we see appear here and there naturally, which is not that natural for me, as I'm a bit older.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, that's why I'm saying they keep me on my toes, like coding and all that, and they just do it like that. It takes me a bit longer to do.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? They have a sort of an intuitive grasp of a lot of the technologies that we're still like, ooh, you know what I mean? Like, and and also the other thing I couldn't get over was how, they've seen all this stuff on TV, right? They've seen people go to the moon. They've seen people go to Mars. So they have a very different, I understand that like, let's go, because it's, they've grown up with people visualizing this stuff already. We just had a moon landing,
Yeah. Well, I was born a bit later, but
sorry, that's yeah. I think I was a little bit later as well, but it was it was, for us, it was like watching the shuttle takeoffs and such. It was definitely more removed from it. But anyway, so that's okay. You've covered a lot of stuff here. So how did you get into this? Because you were doing automotive to start. Was the plan always to go to space?
Yes, I would say I grew up in the countryside in France, and I had no link at all with space. But I was reading magazines. I loved science, and it was just fun. And so I thought, yeah, space. I want that. I want to go in this field. And then I grew up, and actually with friends, we would talk about that, and we had wishes and dreams like that. But little by little, I could see those dreams kind of dying in my friends. No, I just cannot, I cannot do that. So I will focus on this career or on that. And I guess I was a bit more stubborn. I said, I still want it.
Yeah.
And I think it was helpful. That's what I tell the students sometimes. Having this guiding star allowed me to make decisions more easily when I had to choose a career. Where would I go? In engineer, economy, literature? I thought space. I think engineering get me a bit closer to it. I'm not there yet, but I would get a bit closer.
So that was the compass. That was the compass that kept you on track. Exactly. Interesting. Yeah. It does. I'm always. I forget how lucky I am to. Like, I wanted to do acting from age, was it 10 or something? So again, same thing. I always had that. I knew take whatever the best choice was that was going to get me closer to being on film or TV or whatever. So, I just assumed everyone had that, but it's actually, it's not quite as commonplace as I'd expected, really. So
indeed, it's a chance to have something like that. And the thing is, as I grew up in the countryside, I had maybe a more grounded perspective on not getting it directly.
Right.
So when I chose to do engineering, I had in mind I want to do the Super-Héros, which is one of the best engineering schools focused on space and planes.
Right.
And quickly enough, I realized I may not have had the level to enter this school directly. So I had to redirect. And I did an engineering school that was quite peculiar at the time. It was one of the only schools that was very strongly advising to do a 1 year abroad, like a gap year abroad, to have a different perspective. Sorry. And I liked this idea, so I chose that one, mechanical engineering. But it was more linked to the automotive industry. That's why naturally my first job was in the automotive industry. But I always had in mind, okay, I will try to show that I'm good at what I'm doing, and hopefully after a few years I can be recognized and transfer my skills to the space industry.
That's smart. So you had the dream, but you also had the practicality to go, okay, so maybe automotive is not what I want to do, but it's a good jumping off point.
Yeah, better to have something than nothing.
Yeah.
And like when you look for a job, that's one of my former project leaders and directors told me, if it's always easier to find a job when you already have one than when
Yeah,
you don't have anything.
yeah, that is so true. That's right. Like, don't change agents until you've got another agent. That was the other one I heard. You know, all of a sudden you don't have an agent. That's amazing. Okay, so and what in the automotive in the automotive industry, what was the focus? What did you end up doing there? And were you dying to get out of it at that point, or were you just
No, it was once again. I feel quite grateful because I was lucky in a lot of ways. I started as a quality engineer,
right?
and during my studies, we had some lessons on quality. And I thought, quality, that's paperwork, that's all the failure modes and going through each of them and trying to put countermeasures and paperwork. I'm not sure I would enjoy that, but
Right.
I wanted to start working. So I said, okay, let's try it. And I had great line managers, like project leaders and director that gave me, I just thrived without realizing it. My first job for a year and a half, I was sent directly to see the customer in Japan. I
Oh,
was
wow.
like, I just had my degree. I was in France. I didn't move further than the UK and sent to Japan. I was like, okay, I will give my best. I want to go back. And it's so
Yeah.
great. It was tough, but great. And then the next job I did in the automotive industry, I was working for a French a supplier for the car manufacturers. We were producing body panels in composite materials. So
Oh,
composite materials, very light. You can imagine that the kind of cars that need to lose as much weight as possible are the ones that want to go very
very
fast.
fast. Exactly.
So
I'm thinking F1. F1.
it, I had a small taste of that because my customers were mainly Aston Martin in the UK,
Oh, beautiful.
but
James Bond's
because
car.
yes,
Yeah.
no, it's yeah, many stories, and even though once again it was tough, I was quality. I was representing the company when meeting with the quality um, contacts that I had in Aston Martin, and of course for such cars, our quality was never good enough. We always want more,
Right.
but yeah, no, I spent quite a lot of time in Gaydon, in the south of Birmingham,
Oh,
where you
yeah.
have
Yeah. Yeah.
the car manufacturer, and it was a whole experience there, and I just loved the cars, and I could meet a lot of amazing people there. I was taking care of a few of the customers, and one of them was McLaren. That's where I
Oh,
could
there
have a
you
taste
go. McLaren,
of
indeed.
Formula
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
It was not for the F1, it was for the MP412C, a car that already is a bit older now, but we were just getting ready to produce the first parts.
Oh, wow.
And plenty of stories. One of them relate to space, and I could kind of loop the story a bit later, but my company produced the first panels for the first Tesla Roadster.
Oh, wow.
So
Well, those are in space.
I
Those are in
yes,
space now,
exactly.
right?
That's how it looped.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
the Falcon 9 Heavy and opened, and I saw the Tesla Roadster, and I
Wow.
remembered those thin how are they called again? On the hood, you had some thin layers,
Yeah.
thin plaques, and it was carbon fiber inside, and they were always twisting. And quality-wise, it was dreadful.
Right. Yeah. That's tough
But
stuff to. It's tough to. I just watched a documentary on the Titanic. I can't remember the name of the ship now. The one that collapsed.
yes, yes,
Fascinating documentary, and a lot of it's focused on these carbon fiber
mm,
materials, like how unpredictable they are. Um,
yes,
Light and strong, but not necessarily always.
mm,
uh,
exactly.
that's amazing. So, and did they end up in the Tesla, or did you know you were building panels for the Tesla at the time?
I knew, and so I could actually, for the people who do not know, the very first Tesla was built in the UK in the Lotus factory,
I didn't
and
know that.
yeah, the Tesla Roadster, Lotus won a contest and built the first Tesla Roadsters
Oh my
close
goodness.
to Norwich,
Was this
and because
before
there was
Elon? Was this before Elon was involved?
no,
No.
Elon,
Yeah.
he created Tesla, so okay, if you want the whole story as seen from the inside,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, here we
um,
go. I didn't know we were going to get this is juicy. Okay, great.
it's not related. Well, it's kind of related to space in a way. So 2007, if I'm not mistaken, Tesla was born, and they are, producing or trying to produce the very first roadster.
Oh, it was so exciting.
Uh,
It was so exciting.
and yeah, and so this contest, Lotus wins it, and Tesla puts money. Okay, build it now, and Lotus finds a supplier for composite panels in the UK, and they create the molds for all the parts. The whole body the whole body of the car is carbon fiber. I think it's all carbon fiber. I'm not 100% sure anymore. But the thing is, some of the parts, the supplier just cannot produce them. They try, and there's always some failure. And it's getting close to the time when the cars are supposed to be sold. So the Tesla comes back to Lotus saying, okay, do you know, like, it's not working? Do you know anybody who could maybe help? And Lotus was already working with my company on the Lotus Elise, and they said, well, we know this French supplier, so we could check with them.
Right.
So Elon Musk takes his jet, goes to Norwich, lands, takes some executives from Lotus, flies to Dinard in France, so on the coast of Brittany, and goes to my company. My big boss is there, and my big boss took all the experts from all the different sites that the company has, and they have a big meeting, and Elon Musk asks, can you do it within a month? And my big boss said, yes, we can. I said, okay, if you can prove me that you have one good part from each of those molds, then you have you have the parts.
Right.
You have the market.
Right.
And so all the experts went on the R&D center of the company, and they worked super hard. Most of the parts were done within a few days, but the biggest one had some flaws in the mold, and they tried everything. They managed to get good parts, and that's how we got the market.
Wow.
And then, because I had the experience of getting back to normal with a customer that was not that happy, I was put on a Tiger team, and I was going to Poissy, a small city in France where the parts were produced for those. Yeah. And I spent quite a few months over there with some people from Tesla who flew from the US to spend months with us to make sure those parts were coming as fast as possible in the right quality, because the first roadster, like, Tesla was betting everything on this first roadster. So it was super important.
Wow. I love that your job is to deal with difficult customers, not difficult customers, but ones that are already they're a bit worried about. So that's got to be hard work. If you got someone who's already ticked off about something, and you've got to go in and go, okay, look, we got this sorted,
It's no, I think it was a good way of
That's
training.
fantastic. Yeah. Trial by fire.
Yeah, definitely. But as you could imagine, those cars are pretty nice. So my job was nice. I didn't complain, even though it was tough. I could try the Tesla Roadster on the Lotus circuit.
No, really?
Right from the beginning, I was not driving. The pilot was driving, but I was sitting in the passenger seat and just on the seat.
Yeah, just flattened against the passenger seat.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow, that is, oh God, that's amazing. I'm surprised. See, now I'm even more surprised you left, because that just seems like you could have followed that through, and who knows, you could be at Tesla, you could be at SpaceX, you could have been, I mean, I guess they're quite separate things, aren't they? But
I have some good friends who ended up at Tesla, and some of them ended up at SpaceX too. So it could have been a different path.
Yeah.
But that's when I saw this call for candidates for the European Space Agency, and I thought, interesting. I think I can do that. And so this Mars 500 mission. When I applied, I had two motivations, let's say. One was more altruistic. I thought, that's something important. I would really like this one to be a success, because if not, that could push our exploration of Mars by years, if not
and we haven't had a lot of success with these in the past, right? I mean, they've had trouble.
Some of them had trouble. More and more, it is better, but the human factor is still a big question mark. So it's still hard to create a team that would work. We were lucky enough to work together. But it's not easy. I wasn't the one selecting, so I cannot tell you exactly how it went. But from seeing other teams, it is definitely it takes a certain kind of selection to create a team that would go through this kind of confinement.
Oh God, yeah, I can't even imagine. I mean, one of the things I'm discovering as I sort of talk to more and more people about this is that the human element has become more and more an important factor in all of these selections of astronauts and such because they got to get along. You could be the smartest guy in the world, or the most brilliant biologist that the world has ever seen, but if she can't get along with everybody, then it's no use to anybody.
Look who's talking.
Yeah. Exactly. No one wants to be in space with me, my friend. Nobody. Okay. All right. So wow. Again, see this. I knew this was going to happen because every time I dug a little deeper, I found something else that you were involved in or an aspect of what you were working on. That was not one that's amazing. Okay. So you've got a Tesla connection and then, but okay. So this was an ESA mission. That was the Mars 500 was an ESA mission, but it was in Siberia, wasn't it, or something? It was in Russia.
It was in Russia. So the Mars 500 mission was initially launched by the Institute of Biomedical Problems, so which is the medical institute in Russia taking care of spaceflight.
Wow.
And they have a long-standing history of confinement studies like this one. They started in the 60s with some crazy stories.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there are some pretty nice ones.
Yeah.
But quickly enough, the European Space Agency joined forces for this study. That's why total for Mars 500, there were 4 studies. 2 of them were just 2 weeks long. It was mainly to test the facilities.
Right.
One of them was 105 days. And for this one, ESA participated. So we had an international crew with 4 Russians, 1 French, and 1 German. And I joined for the last bit of it, which was the 520 days confinement study. And for this one, the Astronaut Center of China joined, and that's why we could have a Chinese participant in our crew. So 3 Russians, 1 Chinese, 1 Italo-Colombian, and 1 French.
Is that still possible today? Do you think we could still do that today?
Well, right now, no.
Okay.
I mean, what do you mean by can we do it? Yes. Right now, there are a lot of confinement studies in the same way, done in the same way. For example, in the US, the NASA is doing the CHAPEA study. I think it's about to start. I think it's 378 days confined in a Martian habitat. So they're already on Mars.
Yeah.
It's 4 crew members. In Russia, they continue to do confinement studies. The last one was Sirius 23, and it started. I think they had no, they didn't have American. It was the one just before that had Americans, but they work with other countries too. And I think in China they are doing some too, and Europe will do another one soon in Germany. So we are still studying the human factor,
but not all together as much as we used to do. Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Because if you could pool the resources, I imagine it would move a lot faster.
Yes, and I think the diversity of and the cultural differences is often the tensions, and that's what creates the tension so much of the time, and that's what you want to mitigate in a way. So you are losing another aspect of those big international studies by keeping it a bit more national.
Yeah, so the diversity of it allows you to cover and so many more angles on things and so many more possible problems and possible solutions. There's a wonderful description of it where they say, like, where do you keep your ketchup? Whether you keep it in the fridge or you keep it in the cupboard depends on where you'll go for alternatives. So someone who keeps their ketchup in the fridge, if they run out of ketchup, they go, oh, what else do I have? Oh, mayonnaise. So I'll do mayonnaise instead. Someone who has it in the closet goes, oh, vinegar. Oh, I'll put vinegar on it. You know what I mean? So it's just by the nature of where your world exists will have a different solution to things, which of course opens up. It's one of the things I love about. I do these escape puzzle learning stuff,
Yes.
where we use escape puzzles and the building of escape puzzles to teach people stuff. And you have to have a diverse collection of people, because if they're all old white guys in a room, they're all going to have the same old white guy solutions to and
Mhm.
never get out. But if you've got a
Yeah.
collection of different people in different ages and different colors and creeds and countries, you get so many more solutions, and there's so much more chance of getting out. So
I completely agree.
it's
And
amazing.
looking back to my previous life in the
Yes.
automotive industry,
Mm.
that's what one of my quality director, my second job with Aston Martin,
Mm.
he offered me to become quality manager quite quickly,
Oh, wow.
and to recruit somebody to take my position because I went up. And so I did the whole process and I found somebody, and it was all fine. And then after, he took me and said, okay, no, it's a great candidate, no problem with that. I just want you to understand that you chose somebody with whom you work well, but who is very much like you.
Mm.
And especially in quality, if you little by little create a team of people like you tend to have blind spots, and
Yeah.
it becomes really dangerous for the company. So
Yeah.
be aware of that
Yeah.
at every recruitment that you do. And he's totally true with that.
That's fantastic. Well, and of course, and we also, by nature of who we are, we're drawn to similar perspectives and similar people. So it's oh, that's amazing. Oh, good. I love hearing stories where you don't have to defend the choice of diversity. You know what I mean? Like where there's you just, it's you're not there's no choice. It's the right choice. Like it just makes
It
sense for
is.
business and for the solution. That's fantastic. I love it. Okay, so Mars 500. First off, I'm not sure I'd spend 500 days in Russia, let alone in a in a in a pretend Mars in Russia. I mean, my God, that must have been. Did you get some time in Russia before, or did you just show up and?
So there was a selection process. Each country was selecting in different manner, but for the European Space Agency, we went through something that would look like an astronaut selection. So there was first a call for candidates on the internet,
Right.
and then we had a phone interview, and then we're invited in Cologne, in Germany, the European Astronaut Center, to do a psychological interview, filling some questionnaires, and then having 8 people in front of you asking questions. And after that, we were invited to Russia for 10 days of medical checks.
Wow.
Not the most pleasant. And a weeks later, we were invited for the training. So we trained for 3 months in Russia, in
Wow.
Moscow, for this experiment. How different it was, I mean, that's when it became different from the astronaut selection, because we started training for the mission. We were still 11 candidates. And it's only 1 month before entering the module that they extracted from those 11 candidates the final crew of 6.
Wow.
And so
it's competitive then. So you've got a competitive feeling the whole time too.
Yeah, but I was coming from nowhere. For me, every step, I thought that's the last. I mean, I'll make the best out of it, because why would they choose me to go to the next one? And little by little, I went through. My like selfish motivation was to hopefully go through 1 or 2 steps of the selection, to meet some people working in the space field, so they can guide me and give me some tips to how do I become a quality engineer in the space industry.
So
for
this was
example.
networking. You just saw it as a networking opportunity.
I thought, like, I wish I could be selected, but come on, I'm coming from the French countryside. How could I be selected? So I just tried to make the best out of it. But
so were you surprised when they picked you? You were surprised? Or by then you were like, I think I got this.
I was a few days before not surprised anymore that much, but that was just a few days. When I arrived for the training, already went through quite a few steps,
right,
and plenty of stories to tell about that too. But when I arrived there, we were 4 European candidates, just 4.
Right.
And out of the 4, 1 Belgium, 1 Italo-Colombian, and 2 French. And the other French, he was already selected for the previous mission. He stayed in Russia. He had a better Russian. He had the knowledge of the participants, of the people, of the scientists around the mission. I thought, okay, he will be chosen. So I just took as much as I could. I had scientists from all over the world who worked on their studies for decades coming to me saying, okay, so that's what we will study. That's how we study. That's what we want to find out. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, tell me more. And I just enjoyed every second of it. And in the end, I was selected.
That's amazing. What was were there any sort of specific things what was the hardest part of it, would you say? Of all of the going through the whole pre-process before you even got in there, what was the stuff that you went like, wow, that is...
So, well, painful, I guess, medical checks.
Oh, really?
In Russia, sometimes they were doing it without any anesthesia.
Right.
So it was a bit rough.
No anesthesia? Really?
Well, just a cheap sheet for going through the stomach and that kind of things, and both sides.
Oh, right. But because of course they're going to do all the internal checks as well. Okay. Yeah, I want to be out for that. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to know that happened. Yeah. Okay.
I had to go through, but the hardest part was actually the full story is that I was dismissed at some point during the medical check. The last check, very last one, it was an ultrasound, and they found something. So I went to see the doctor, the Russian doctor, and he told me, yeah, there is 95% chances that it's nothing, but there is a small chance that it could evolve during the mission. So thank you, but goodbye. And that was finished for me. And that was on the Monday. And the Monday afternoon, we were visiting for the first time the modules of Mars 100. And I was out, and I was like, look at everything you will never have. And I was a bit down. The other candidates say, try to see a specialist in France. Maybe they can green card you and say that it's nothing.
Right.
But the training starts in 2 weeks, and there is no way. In France, if it's not life or death, a specialist, you wait for 3 months before you can see one.
Yeah, that's Canada too. Yep.
And I don't know how long you want the story, but long story short, I was super lucky. I managed to get a check that arrived 3 days late. And they already started the training in Russia. But I had sent an email to ESA saying, yeah, I did the test. I didn't have the results yet, but I'm sure it's okay. If you need me, I'm here.
Right.
And 3 days after the beginning, they needed somebody. And they called me back.
Wow. Wow. So there's still a bit of luck involved in this too, huh? So it's a bit of fortune. No. Wow. That's amazing. Okay, so all right, so now you're set. So that must be the hardest part, because you're dealing with tests and health stuff, and because you've also got the health side of it. You got to be going like, what is that?
You can only say thanks, Dad and Mom, I guess. What can you do? I was doing some sport and trying to stay fit, but that's as much as you can do.
So they lock you into, how big was that? Like, give us a sense of how the size and the setup of this thing.
So we spent 520 days, so a year and a half, in mainly 3 big metallic cylinders. I think the diameter was 4 or 5 meters. And the biggest one was the storage module. It was all the food, the clothes, the equipment for the whole mission. The second biggest was the most important for us. It was the living module. This one had roughly the size of a bus. You have to imagine a bus.
Right, yeah.
And inside this bus, you had a bathroom, control room, 6 rooms, a kitchen, and a living room.
Wow.
And the smallest one was the medical module, which was kind of our work module. During 520 days, what we did was scientific experiments, trying to answer this big question: is man psychologically and physiologically able to endure the confinement of a trip to Mars? So a lot of psychological and physiological experiments, but not only. And so those 3 big cylinders were our base, or our spaceship, and we lived for a year and a half inside those 3 ones. In the middle of the mission, when we arrived, on orbit around Mars, and I have air quotes here,
Right.
we could dock with the Martian lander that was waiting for us on orbit around Mars.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, for 1 month, we had one additional room.
Oh,
and because
wow.
nobody was there before, the whole room was filled with all the food and clothes for the trip back.
Right.
So it was a new room, new food, new clothes, even some gifts from family and friends. That was amazing. During that month, 3 of us went into further confinement. So they lived in this closed Martian lander, and they went on Mars. And during 2 weeks, they did 3 EVAs on the Martian surface, which was a big dome with some sand and some EVA suits. And so
all functioning. It all had to function as it would function on the day, type thing.
Yes. Well, they may not have been as so they were tethered. So it was the spacesuit that they were wearing when going on Mars. It was called Orlan E. And on the Russian side of the International Space Station, Orlan is the name of the spacesuit they have there.
Right.
But because we're on Mars, the limbs, especially the legs, had a bit more mobility compared to the one that you find in space.
Right.
So that's why it was modified. But it was on the same base as the Orlan spacesuit that they have on the ISS.
Wow.
So that was a lot of fun. But I was not part of the Martian team. I stayed on orbit during the 2 weeks when they were on Mars.
You must have been so jealous.
Well, the thing is that we were told when entering, like the day before, 1 or 2 days before. So I had 8 months to get
your head around it. Right.
Exactly.
And so, do they have you busy are you working the whole time?
So we were doing experiments the whole time, and because
what kind of experiments? What sort of stuff are you doing?
So we had 105 experiments total to do. Most of them being psychological and physiological. Physiological, it was measuring heart rate. You had the blood draws. You had sports. But psychological was about interaction with the others, your state, mental state, your reflexes, cognition. Plenty of different experiments. I can. One of the ones I talk about, because that's an experiment that I found funny to talk about. The title of this experiment was called pain tolerance, and basically we had to put on our arm a little, like an iron,
like a heating element.
Yes, a heating element. Thank you. That would heat, and we had a big red button, and we had to press when it was hurting.
Oh, wow.
And you would think, like, why would you put yourself into that? Like, what's the purpose even of that? But when you imagine going to Mars, the first astronauts arriving there, they will have to put on a heavy spacesuit, and they will have to go outside and do very long EVAs. And if confinement has an impact on the pain tolerance, on the level of pain that you can withstand, then it could have some real operational dangers linked with that.
Did they see a drop or a heightening of it?
So
at all?
I didn't see the article that hopefully was written with this one. It was a Russian experiment.
Oh, they were just messing with you.
But I checked my temperature, and for me it was roughly the same throughout the whole Mars 100. So there is hope, at least.
Right. God, it's a fascinating study. I mean, it hadn't occurred to me that, of course, to do this, you have to do this. Like, you have to. It's not like one of those. You can't sort of create a simulation that's going to simulate people in space for 500 days or in a confined space. Wow, that's okay. So I still can't get my head around this. So are you sleeping in shifts? How does it work?
So that's Mars 105. The team before us, they had to do that. They had to stay. One person had to stay on shift every night, basically, to make sure that if any danger arises, you could react quickly.
Right.
And it created a lot of issues, because every 6 days you have to go through a whole night without sleeping, and that has that had a lot of impact. To stay awake,
Oh,
they did a lot of sport. But sport was an experiment, and you're not supposed to do more than what you are assigned. And because of that, all the sport they did, they were eating much more, but it was not planned for athletes. Our diet was planned for normal food, and they were starving for the whole 3 months and a half. And so they didn't want to repeat that. So for us,
lack
they
of
said,
sleep
okay,
and lack of food, that is a terrible combination, certainly for me.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, for I think everybody, no.
Yeah.
So for us, they told us we'll have on the ground a team that will take care of the systems, but you are allowed to sleep. So we didn't have to stay on duty for the whole night, but every day one of us was on duty. So when we were waking up at 8 or 8:30, we had to go to the control room and send a message in Russian to the team on the ground saying, okay, we take over the responsibility of the spacecraft. And in the evening, we would just go and say, okay, we hand over the responsibility of the spacecraft.
Are you being filmed the whole time?
We had, I think it was 40 cameras. So yes, there was, as far as we were told, no microphones. And seeing what we said, I think they either they were very lenient or there was no microphones. But luckily there was no camera in our bedrooms and in the bathrooms.
Right. Okay, so still, that's, I mean, boy, that's like you're like the you're like space influencers. It's you gotta living in that. Were there any problems? I mean, were there any? Did you get? Were there fights? Were there? I mean, how does one? I can only assume there would have been some kind of a, or was everyone just?
There were tensions. Luckily, none of those went down to an all-out conflict within the crew. So we experienced some tensions, and one of them, at least the most, the strongest I had with another crew member was with one of the Russians, because as a Frenchman, when I eat during the meal, it's a moment where I talk and ask questions and exchange. It's an important moment.
It's a social thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And for one of the guys, eating from tradition education was done in silence. It's only at the end that they would exchange and talk. So,
oh wow,
I would chat and ask questions, and for several weeks and months, he would either not answer or answer very briefly, and that was fine. But one day, I asked him a question, and he didn't answer. So I asked him the question again, and he didn't answer. So I asked him the question again. I said, "Oh, stop it! Can't you see you are bothering me?"
Yeah.
It was a bit stronger as a language.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. Sorry, I didn't want to get you angry or anything. So the meal finished a bit awkward. And after that, I went back to my room. And what's important is that 10 minutes later, he came and knocked and said, yeah, sorry, I was a bit rough, but you have to understand at home it's silence. So with your question, it was too much. And once I understood that, I could say, yeah, but for me, it's very different. And once you understood, we just found compromises. He would come to eat earlier. And so that nobody was there, he was quiet. Or I would just refrain from asking questions to him. I could talk to the others, no problem. But that's how we handled things. And it worked for a year and a half.
And that's just something that it would never occur. Like, all of those little social issues are things that you can't plan for that. Now you can, but you couldn't, I mean, the idea, it's so funny because they're very different cultural approaches to food. I mean, food has a very different to meaning and community around it, depending on where you go. It's amazing. Wow.
So food was the subject. We were always talking about food, about the food we liked, the food we didn't like, the food from the countries. Having a representative from Colombia, Italy, France, Russia, Tajikistan, China. We had so many crazy dishes we could talk about. And so, food was really something important.
But probably not, you're probably not eating that food that you're talking about though, right?
No. But so the food was good. We had some testing before. The difficulty was for the first 8 months, the food was a study. So we couldn't choose what we were eating. We had to choose what was on our menu and to eat every little part because it was linked with the amount of salt we were ingesting.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We're eating. Right. And the difficulty here is that it was not linked with the calendar. So for Christmas, it was broccoli and meatballs, which is not that Christmassy, let's say.
That is not a, that's, wow. Okay.
And for the second half of the
remaining
8 months.
Oh my God. What have I done? Why am I here? Especially from someone from France who knows their food.
The worst part of it is that we still had some things to eat on the side to make it better that didn't have salt inside. And we had powdered wine. Never try that. This is just disgusting.
What is
powdered wine? Powdered
wine.
Yes, you put powder in a glass and you put some water, you stir, and it's supposed to be wine. It is not. It is not wine.
Oh my God. Is it alcoholic?
Yes.
There's alcohol. So it's supposed to literally be a nice heady glass of wine.
Exactly.
Wow. That sounds like the gecko food I give. I have a little powdered stuff for the gecko that I give it. That's not. Yeah.
Well, I would say most of our food was that eventually, but for the powdered wine, not great. So we could make it kind of better, but still, the better was not really that better.
Sorry. So you had the powdered wine to try to cheer up the meatballs and broccoli.
Exactly. But
wow.
Luckily, we had powdered glühwein.
Glühwein. That's not bad. That's okay. That's the mulled wine, isn't it? The mulled wine. Yes. Yeah. That's good stuff. That's usually
this
powdered
one was
anyways.
better.
Yeah.
This one was good.
So which leads me to the question, of course, water. Did you bring all that water? Did you create that water? Like, how was it? What is the?
So in the simulation, the water was not recirculated and recycled.
Okay.
So we had water coming from Moscow, monitored, and they were measuring how much we're using. Right. So I think it was more to understand how much do we need.
Got it.
And we didn't have strong restrictions with it.
Okay.
The air was recycled. So we only had our air. And inside the modules, we were a bit overpressured so that if there is any leak anywhere, our air was going out and never from the outside to the inside to see how it evolves.
Right. Were there ever leaks or anything? Did you ever have any sort of structural issues while you were there?
We had some issues with some of the bathrooms for water, but nothing too big. So we had once to crawl below the floor in the middle of a very long module to just as an swipe and dry a puddle that was formed there because of a leak.
Oh, wow.
But that's pretty much it.
It's nice to know that plumbing doesn't work anywhere. That's good because the number of times I find myself under floors looking for leaks as well. So, wow. And did you have to have the skills? Were you trained basically in troubleshooting everything that was there?
So my glorified title for Mars 100 was the board engineer. So I was supposed to be the one dealing with that, but our commander was first Russian, so he understood everything that was written on all the paper that we received.
Right.
And he was, I think, better than me at that. I think that's why he was the commander.
Right.
So most of the time he was the one dealing with those. But with my glorified title, I was supposed to do that.
Wow. And so so you do 500 days of this. When you come out, that's got to be. I remember seeing a play once that they did in slow motion. The whole play was done in slow motion. I thought I was going to be. It seemed like hell, but after a while, you get used to it, and it suddenly, when we left the theater, I was like, "Oh my God, everything's moving so fast." It must have been something similar for you coming out of a situation like that.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, that's very interesting. Indeed, it was not fast, but so exiting was great. Because. All of a sudden, our family were there, and you have to imagine we spent a year and a half in modules with no windows, with no internet, and we exit finally. And in front of us, we have literally a wall of people, officials
All
and
right, of
cameras
course.
and journalists on the ground floor, and on
I
the
just turn
two
around and go back
balconies.
in again.
Yeah. Families and friends calling for us, and so we are all looking up like, where are you? We didn't see them for a year and a half, so at least. So it was great, and we wanted, at least personally, I wanted to take in as much information as I could. We were given some little flowers, and I wanted to smell, like, how does it smell different, or
Right.
how does it smell? And because one of the hypotheses was that our immune system would be a bit down after such a long confinement, we were sent in quarantine directly after exiting, like a few hours after exiting. We went sent to a hospital. So we ended up 6 of us inside a van going, crossing Moscow to this hospital. And I remember on the van, we were just rediscovering plenty of little things. And we're like, guys, look, a dog. Things that we didn't see for a year and a half, but we didn't think about for a year and a half. And now look, a baby.
Wow.
And so, and I still remember the next morning we had to wake up early to do some blood draws, and it was my first sunrise in more than a year and a half. And
Wow.
it's engraved there. I remember all the colors from the dark blue to all the way up to the yellow of the sun and white even with what kind of Soviet-style buildings were around the hospital where we were. And
Right.
it was great, great
Wow.
memories.
It seems the thing that I'm getting throughout all of this is a sense of wonder and curiosity and sort of an openness to everything that's happening around you. Like, yes, there's some strategy for sure, but I almost feel like no matter what you'd done, you would have found something interesting about it.
Well, I think I learned that from my first job, quality
Yeah.
engineer.
Yeah.
As I said, I was lucky to have those project leaders and directors who helped me to reframe quality. You can see it as filling a paper to prevent any failure mode and put
Right.
some countermeasures, or you can see it as I'm the detective. I will go to the root cause of this problem and will find how to stop it forever.
Yeah.
And when you find it, it feels great. Oh yeah, great. And because the customer are supercars, it's pretty nice to walk around the car manufacturer. So very often it depends on how do you tell your story, how do you see your own story, and if you see it positively, then it's fine.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Okay, so now, sorry, that was something I didn't ask was when you went in there, did you have a wife? Did you have a girlfriend? Did you have a boyfriend? What was were there people? Who were you giving up for that 500 days?
So I met my wife today 1 month before entering the modules.
Oh my God!
So quickly
Oh,
enough, we had to sit and think, okay, what do we do now?
oh
I said,
my
well,
God!
I'd be happy to see you, but you know what? I cannot oblige you to stay because you will be the one for whom it will be tough. I'm just locked inside those modules.
Right.
And she was there a year and a half later.
Wow! Wow! Oh my God! That's.
So
I met my wife and went away for a month to Bulgaria to film stuff, and I thought that was bad enough, but that's she's got to be going like, is this like some like, oh yeah, sure, you have to go away for 500 days? Yeah, no, I'll call
yeah,
you. We'll be you know.
yeah. No, I
Um,
cannot call you actually.
and was it?
No internet.
It's and there's that well that I can't even touch on that because I can't. So you've got no internet. You've got so what you brought with you to read and to entertain yourself. I saw the Wii U,
Yes.
but you had to bring what to keep yourself busy. You had to bring your own stuff.
We had to bring our own stuff. We still had a server, so we could communicate with the ground control.
Right.
And there was a delay that was added as
Right.
further we were going from Earth, the longer the delay.
Right.
But we could send messages,
Oh, okay. All right.
and then somebody at the ground control could extract our messages and then send them to our family and friends. So we could communicate,
Right.
but not directly.
But yeah, it's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same at all. Wow, good for you, boy. So she was there when you came out. That's pretty great. And what did you do? What did you find helped while you were in there? What kept you sane during 500 days of Russian
So
food?
I think I can talk about what I used, and I realized that it's slightly different for everybody inside. So for me, there were different things. First, we all needed some personal activities because
Right,
we were
right.
working for 8 hours, and it was not
Yeah.
always 8 hours. Sleeping for 8 hours, it was
Right.
not always 8 hours. And then the rest, you have to fill it. What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be creative enough to find stuff to do and have your own projects. The second thing, we tried from time to time to break the monotony. When we entered, we were full of energy. It was great. But little by little, to be able to live together, we put in place some routines. Those routines, little by little, they become monotonous.
Right.
And little by little, they become boring.
Yeah.
And so to break this monotony, we would have events like Halloween, like New Year, like Christmas. So we would make it special. Birthdays was a big thing.
Right.
And that helped. One of the things that helped me a lot was communicating with the outside, and with my future wife, with my family, with my friends. So every evening I would spend 2 to 3 hours reading all the messages I had received during the day and writing answers. And it was not like a quick message. Right. It was like letters from the past century, like big text. And I would send several of those every evening, and I would just... everything coming from the outside was so important that I would read like 10 times. By the end of the mission, I was reading at least 10 times every single message that I was receiving because it was so important.
To get every nuance, to get everything out of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And every newspaper, I would read every single article. I don't do that anymore. I don't have the time. But there, it was so important that I would read everything that I was given.
Well, it's nice to, I mean, sometimes it's just nice to have that focus too, isn't it? Just to have that, that is your, that you can dedicate the time to that because, you've done everything else you need to do. I find sometimes in the world where we're the always connected world, there's always something you should be doing other than what you're doing, if that makes sense. I find, so.
It does.
Wow. Okay. So that's interesting. So writing and communicating with people was that kept things fresh and your brain going for that. But you're saying but you stop now. You don't do that as much anymore. You're not reading papers as much. You're not.
Now I can call. I can message. I don't have to write big letters. But it's true that I don't do it. And actually, there is a nice little story inside this one. Toward the end, my aunt asked me, "So how does it feel to be the confidant of the whole family?" And they're like, why is she saying that? And then I realized I remembered some of the messages I received from friends and even from family saying, okay, we just wanted to let you know that we will be welcoming a new baby soon, and nobody knows yet, but anyway, you will not tell anybody in your hall over there. So you are the first to know that we are waiting for a new baby.
Interesting. You're the confessional. You're like a tin can confessional. It's the
So then I understood what my aunt was saying. Because people would just share more, and because I was sharing a lot, I needed to talk, and so communication with the outside was very important for me.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, that unto itself would be enough if you weren't now doing something even cooler. I would say, so I'm assuming that you use that as a stepping stone to get to in with ESA and the Spaceship program. So could you explain what that is to people?
So what I do now, or how I entered ESA?
Well, kind of both. I guess both. Both would be yes, yeah. How you got there and what you're doing, basically. So
okay. Well, I will go through quickly, and then you can ask any question that you may have. So after exiting Mars 100, it was, I believe, a bigger success than expecting initially. And ESA asked me and Diego Urbina, the other participant, to stay a bit longer to write a full report on lessons learned for this mission and to do some outreach. So we stayed with ESA for 6 more months. And then they told us, yeah, great, but we didn't have budget, so thank you, goodbye. And I was unemployed for a few months.
Right.
Before one of the people who was taking care of the mission said, oh, there is this opportunity in Germany. I think your profile and especially your experience in Mars 100 could be good for that. So if you want to apply, go ahead, the vacancy is open. And that was to be a crew support engineer. And so to facilitate the daily life of the astronauts. I wasn't so sure at first because it's mainly organization, it's not so much technical. But I thought, okay, come on, European Astronaut Center.
There you go.
Let's try it at least.
Yeah.
It must be cool, and I loved it. And so I spent 7.5 years over there. And while I was there, I was taking care of the astronauts, but at the same time, I was asked if I wanted to certify as a Eurocom, European Communicator. So this position is part of the flight control team that is linked with the ISS. You have experts all around the world, and the most famous ones are in Houston. Failure is not an option. You have the Capcom talking to the astronauts, and each center around the world has one communicator. And for Europe, it's the Eurocom. So I was trained as a Eurocom, and because you are the voice of the ground control team in Europe to the astronauts in space, or the voice of the astronauts to the ground control team in Europe, you have to have a good grasp on what's happening there on both the human side, but also on the technical side. And I really enjoy this entering again.
That's a neat combination.
Definitely loved it. I won't say I was the best one because I had my other job as crew support engineer that was keeping me a bit further away from console. So I had some colleagues who were really good at that, but I was learning from them. And during that period, the first spaceship structure was born at ESA. So I could see it grow with all those young actives and the crazy things they're imagining and putting in place, and Skunkworks and all that. And when it was time for me to try something new, I said, well, I want to try that. And I was lucky that the French space agency, CNES, wanted to develop their own spaceship FR. And I jumped in. I did, I'd like to participate. I would like to help. And a couple of years later, ESA, the European Space Agency, looked for a coordinator for the spaceship here in the UK. And once again, I applied, and that's how I got in.
Those meatballs and broccoli paid off.
Definitely, definitely.
So the spaceship program, I'm a bit mystified as to what it's called. Spaceship. And what exactly is its, or are they different goals, or are they?
Our common goal is to prepare the future of space exploration. Spaceship is mainly a name because it's cool. It has a history. So the history of the name, if you want it, is coming from the European Astronaut Center. At the time, I think it was 2012, a new head of establishment arrived there. It was the Belgian astronaut Frank de Veen. And he looked at the site and he said, okay, all the budget we have is for the ISS, for the International Space Station. And it goes to training for astronauts, to the astronauts and their support, to the medical support of the astronauts. All that is linked with the ISS. When there is no ISS, there is no site anymore. I don't get any budget. So we need to prepare the future of space exploration. And he managed to get a research fellow who would test some new materials. So who was imagining we are on the moon, how can we use the Regolith simulant or the Regolith on the moon to prepare, to test things. And because that person said, alone I will not do a lot, I would need a team. The first step that would not require a lot of budget was to take a few interns. Because they were so good all together, they achieved some pretty amazing milestones. The team grew little by little organically, and they found out what works, having some research fellows, some staff, some PhD students, and students. It creates some kind of basis for greatness, let's say. And then thanks to that, other sites said, oh, we'd like to have this kind of team too. And because Spaceship, I didn't explain why Spaceship. So when this head of establishment arrived, he created a workshop saying, okay, let's see what we can do to prepare. And the outcome was, let's test the technologies that we would need on the moon, on Mars, on this building. Let's create a spaceship out of this building.
Ha.
So recycle the water and drink it, get only energy from the sun. So everything would be kind of
Self-contained. It
become
becomes its own spaceship. I see. Yeah,
exactly.
that's
But
great.
this building is an architect building on DLR, so German Space Agency ground in Germany, with all the German laws. Changing a small thing on this building was impossible.
Right.
So he quickly abandoned the whole spaceship ESA as a building ID, but the name stayed because it's cool.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's great. It's great.
That's why we're called spaceships.
That's fantastic. So there's spaceships now. There's a number of these. Is yours focused on anything in? There's how many? 4?
4.
And they are, and they each have slightly different focuses, or are they like what is your spaceship focused on?
So we are free enough to test almost all the technology gaps that were identified. We didn't have to do it, by the way. Experts from all around the world came together to create the global exploration roadmap, that's our basis. So we know all the technology gaps that still exist today for the future of space exploration.
Is that public knowledge? I mean, is that something?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. Oh, that's cool.
I can send you the link if you want to read it.
I'll put that in the I'll put that in the description. So actually, I'll put a bunch of links to all. I'll get a bunch of stuff from you, and we'll make sure everyone's can get in touch and stuff.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. It's very interesting. So we base it on that, and we can test almost what we want within those boundaries. But each of the site has some kind of expertise, and because of that, we have a flavor. So, for example, the spaceship ESA, as they have the astronauts, is a bit more focused on operations and training, and they worked a lot on advanced manufacturing, so new kind of ways of creating stuff using what they have on the moon, so the regolith,
like the 3D printing, the regolith, and all that,
exactly.
which is genius. I think that's like wow, yeah.
So in situ resource utilization, as it's called.
Right.
So they're a bit more focused on that. Spaceship FR is a bit more focused on life support systems and space medicine, but both of them do what the other does. But as we talk, we find synergies. Here in the UK, as we have some expertise towards telecommunications, we work on for robotics, mixed reality, and the link. So we imagine the delays of telecommunication, and I know I have a colleague who's watching, I believe, right now. Who's part of that team. So we
fantastic.
work a lot together.
Wait a sec. Part of the team that's in charge of delaying things.
So they have a simulator,
and
they can install some delay in the signal to make sure that we test the moon delay. But
I guess you need to too, make sure that there's nothing gets corrupted, nothing gets. I mean, because it's a long uncabled.
Exactly, it's the delay tolerant network will become very important. So because of that, we have a bit more a flavor, a bit more towards robotics and mixed reality, astronaut assistant too. What the astronaut needs.
Now, I know I've asked you about this before, but just for everyone else, mixed reality. What could you define mixed reality for us?
So mixed reality, we refer to that. You have the virtual reality where you put head and you are cut from the reality and you are entering a virtual world, basically.
Right.
That's most of the headsets nowadays. You have the opposite, which is augmented reality. Usually you see the reality, and on top of reality, you have some information. I think the Meta glasses were announced not too long ago, that kind of things. And everything in between, we call mixed reality. So one example we have at the ESA, I would say a spin-off of the Spaceship ESA, it's called the EXA Lab. It's its own entity nowadays. And one of the main successes is an astronaut training for robotics. And they could prove to all agencies, to ESA, but also to NASA, that their training is twice faster and twice cheaper to the training that was usually used for the robotics with astronauts. So nowadays it's norm, and because astronauts, you don't want to train them negatively. Basically, you want them to train with the real tools that they use. And nowadays, they have this virtual environment where they can see what they would see in space for the SSRMS, so the Canadarm on the ISS, and they can manipulate it, but extracted from this virtual reality, you can see the real control that they use and the signal that they use on those real control.
So the feedback would be the same and everything.
Exactly, to make
and that
sure
came
that they
out
have
of Spaceship? That came out, that was a
so,
Spaceship creation?
So the idea of using virtual reality for training was started within the Spaceship ESA. But now what is proposed, what I'm describing, is part of the EXA lab. So it grew. It's one of those little sparks that grew, kindled, and became its own entity. And now is moving forward and proposing even greater tools.
Well, and as you say, cheaper because you've got virtual simulations instead of having to build these big clunky things that are trying to mimic an environment that is almost impossible on Earth. Wow. So basically, if I'm right here, someone could come in, learn how to use the space arm of some sort, and then you could put them in space, and they would be able to manipulate it exactly the same way.
Correct.
So it'd be like taking a driving test that would be exactly the same as if you actually had a driving test without any of the mileage or the cars involved.
Well, you would have virtual mileage.
Virtual mileage. Okay, yeah, true enough. Yeah, okay.
Proved to be as good as
but not tire wear.
No tire wear, indeed.
Wow, that's oh God, I love that. I love that because that's it's like I was sent as a birthday present Farming Simulator, where you literally sit in a combine and you learn how to use all of these, and it's like heaven. It's amazing. I now want to find one. I watched the I don't know, sometimes you can hear noises behind my microphone. They're tearing down an old church and putting up some kind of an old people's home there, and I watched for days as this thing sort of chomped away at the old church, and I was like, I want that simulator. But the idea of like being able to practice pulling down buildings without actually pulling down buildings, it just makes complete sense. It's perfect.
I agree. And it's so transferable. When you imagine nuclear power plants, you don't want to test it on the real thing. You want to make sure that when you do it, exactly. Surgery. I think there was a lab in France, in Ria, close to Rennes in France. They proved that they could train a surgeon as good in virtual reality as with the training they usually have on.
Yeah,
I don't know which tool actually.
They call it in the bio and informatics. They call it digital twins. You're creating a digital twin of the. I think it's a silly term, but yeah, that's the same thing. Where they're trying to create something that they can that is just as good as reality. Wow. So have you had a go at it? Have you tried it?
Which one? The
have you tried the training tool at all?
So in a way, yes. I didn't try the whole training. But I could test a few parts of it. I could test quite a few things within Master 100. We had an experiment called Pilot that was about testing our ability to learn complex tasks in confinement. And the complex tasks was to learn how to pilot a spacecraft.
Oh, wow.
So with 6 degrees of freedom, and then to dock it to a space station. So we had the whole process of learning, and then we had the test with the real Soyuz simulator throughout the whole mission to make sure that we still had good skills to dock.
So you docked the Soyuz? Wow, but I mean, it's wow.
It was the real controls from the Soyuz. So yeah.
You got to be like,
yeah, definitely.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. What I love about this too is that selfishly, I feel like this will trickle down, and eventually we'll be able to buy ourselves a little kit that will. I mean, like the F1. Max Verstappen, who spends as much time on spends more time on a virtual track than he does on a real one now. I mean, it's amazing. Okay. He'll finish an F1 race, go yay, and then go home and race at home, that's obsessive, but amazing. I love that. I love that's the one aspect. I've never been able to do virtual reality. I just get motion sickness. I can't.
Mm.
It's like
It's getting better.
is it the devices or is it me? You think it's the devices?
It's devices most of the
Mm,
time, and the signal they send to your brain, and if you are very sensitive, then
mm,
it kind of create those
mm.
how do you call that again? Conflicting information, and then
Right.
your brain saying like, "This is not good. You must have eaten something wrong. So let's
Yeah.
get everything out."
Is that and that so that was always my theory. So that is that really what happens? Your brain's going like, "Oh my God, you must have eaten something, so we got to get just." Bleh.
That's my understanding. I'm no medical doctor,
No,
but
that's just interesting
I
because I get it with car. I get it in cars as well. So it's yeah. Uh, okay. So we're now in the spaceship. Your what is a day to day? I'm going to ask you this one, and then I should probably, as I've done, I've forgotten to go to questions. But let me just ask you while I look for questions, an example of like what is the day at your spaceship looking like now?
So a day at the spaceship is a lot behind the computer, answering emails, but the whole purpose initially was to make sure that our team has the tools to develop those new ideas, new processes, and to test them.
Right.
There is, on top of that, a networking part where we try to see little by little around the site, around the site, a bit further right now in the UK and then in Europe,
Mm.
teams in industry, in universities that would be interested in sharing some of the load. So basically, working on common projects that would be beneficial for both entities.
Right.
And there is a lot of cooperation and coordination between the different spaceships to make sure that we don't reinvent the wheel. Like
Right.
when they are
Right.
doing something, let's maybe do a competition, but not exactly the same.
Right.
One will use that tool, and the other one that tool, and let's see which one has the best outcome.
Mhm.
So yeah, focusing on the team and making sure that we can work on robotics and virtual and mixed reality, expanding and networking and getting some entities interested in doing projects together,
Mhm.
and then coordinating with all the other spaceships.
How many people do you have there?
Right now, in just the spaceship team, we are 6 in the UK.
Oh, wow.
They are 15 to 20 in France and in Germany, and I think there are 9 in Poland. But
Wow.
it fluctuates based on how many students are there, and they're going and coming and going.
Mm.
So the Spaceship ESC has been there for more than 10 years now, and I think they reached a good level. If you want innovation,
Right.
the team should stay small enough that you
Small.
can
Yeah.
know everybody and create this Skunkworks and this energy. Okay, let's put all our energy on this problem right now because it's important,
Right.
and everything is put aside for a few weeks. And when it's too big, then yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't bring as much outcomes, or at least it was not as successful.
Right. Right. So you got to keep that small Skunkworks approach.
So I still want to increase little by little Spaceship ECSAT,
Yeah.
but when we have found this level, it will be more about finding more entities around the spaceship to work with.
Mm. That's amazing. Okay, look, I've got a million things I'd like to ask you, but I'm gonna be a proper podcaster, and I'm gonna go to the questions here. All right. So the fabulous Agne, who made all this happen, by the way, thank you, Agne, has got some questions here. Okay, so James Spries asks, "What is Romain's favorite space food?" I'm guessing not meatballs and broccoli, and certainly not powdered wine.
So when I was a crew support engineer, one of my tasks was to take care of the astronaut, of the space food of the astronauts. For our astronauts, the European astronauts, they fly with NASA. So their food, the normal food, is prepared by the NASA food lab in Houston.
Right.
And it's very balanced and it's very good. It has all nutrients and all that, nothing more, nothing less. But they get to choose bonus food. They don't like to call it bonus food on the NASA side. They call it crew support menu. No, crew C something M.
Yeah.
And for our astronauts in Europe, because we have a lot of different countries, we ask them, do you want food out of the shelf or food that was already prepared for previous astronauts, or do you want some food that will be developed specifically for you? Usually they choose this option.
Right.
And because we can, we go to the country of origin of the astronauts and we ask a 3-star chef, do you want to develop some food for the astronaut that would go to space?
Oh, wow.
Usually they are eager to
yeah,
test
no
their
kidding.
skills.
Yeah.
And because I was the one just organizing, I didn't do anything. They were doing the work. I was just making sure that the food would be ready and at the right place to be sent to space so that the astronaut could eat it when they are in space. And because I needed to know what I'm talking about, I had to try it.
Of course.
And because I have a sweet tooth, I would say one of my preferred, the one that blew my mind in a way. They were all very good, as you can imagine. But the one was very simple stewed apple that was prepared by the chef in the UK, Heston Blumenthal, for the Team Peak mission.
Oh, wow.
And it was just simple apple stewed with a bit of sugar or caramel, I don't know, but it was just melting and it was sweet.
Wow.
And it was
oh,
delicious.
My mouth is watering at the thought of it. That's really not what I love when you can make something as simple as that a treat. Like that's wow. And that's the one that stood out for you. Wow.
Well, all of them was great. I can talk about the Spätzle that was Kaiser Spätzle, so a cheese kind of pasta, German style, that was prepared for Alexander Guest. That was very good too.
Pasta's got to be hard though, because that doesn't travel that well, does it?
So there are 3 ways of preparing food for space. The first one is the one that you imagine the most, is dehydrated food.
Right.
And indeed, for this one, especially for Spätzle, I think rice, when it's freeze-dried, it's really long to rehydrate it completely.
Yeah.
You have also thermostabilized food, so it's cans basically.
Right.
It will be put inside a bag, but the whole process is high pressure, high temperature for a certain amount of time to kill everything. It's all sterile.
Yeah.
The thing is, all the vegetables, they are kind of crushed and they don't look that good with this process.
Right.
And
do you still get all the nutrients though? You still get all the nutrients. It just doesn't.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yes. So the taste is good, but doesn't look good. And for a 3-star chef, it has to look good too.
Right.
But so that's one of the challenges they have. And the Spätzle were prepared with this method. So, pasta and cheese, it's okay with this kind of thermostabilized process. The third one I didn't talk about is irradiation. So you irradiate the dish so that you kill everything that is on top of it, and then you just close it. More and more, the NASA goes toward this solution. In Europe, we have different regulations, so it makes it a bit more difficult, but it is the third way of preparing space food.
How are you irradiating it though? Like, what are you doing to it that it's just?
I don't want to say anything wrong.
No. Okay. No. It really needs a better name.
No, I know.
I'll take the irradiated lamb, please. It just doesn't seem, that does not sound good. Okay. All right. But thank you. That's fantastic answer. Okay. What is Romain's favorite story from working with the astronauts? And I guess that could be any aspect of what you've been doing for that matter. Do you have any stories that stand out? I'm sure there's a few.
Yeah. Favorite story. That's a tough one. I have so many stories. I would say, okay, because you are here, and I thought about it before joining you for this for today. One, if not the most gratifying moment I had during my career as a crew support engineer, is when in 2018, at the beginning of 2018, my boss, Frank Devine, so my boss actually, received a letter from the head of the Canadian Space Agency, or the astronauts, not the CSA, but of the astronauts, asking him, would it be possible for Thomas Pesquet, the French astronaut, and Romain Charles, me, to take care of the family of our astronaut David Saint-Jacques when he flies to the ISS.
Oh, wow.
So basically, we joined CSA to prepare the whole launch campaign, and I was physically with the closest family and friends of David Saint-Jacques throughout the whole steps, the whole launch campaign, with a few days in Moscow first, and then a few days in Baikonur, and then the rocket launching with David and his crew on top of it. And that was amazing. First, because unfortunately never went to Canada, but I got a good taste of Quebec in particular.
Oh, Quebec,
with David's family.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts of Canada is Quebec, I've got to say.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And amazing.
But so you were so they were like, who's the best? So that's a big responsibility because you're looking after the family of these people. So
exactly.
And they found out about you because of, was there anything in particular that stood out for them?
So Canada is a cooperating state with ESA.
Right.
And because David's mission was coming up, and the one before was Chris Hadfield, which was some years before, CSA asked if the crew surgeon who were following David Saint-Jacques could follow the mission of the previous astronaut. I think it was Alexander Guest. So they were shadowing our ESA crew surgeons to make sure that they were up to date with the latest procedures when it comes to the astronaut health. And thanks to that, I got to meet, because we were all in the same building in Germany, a lot of the crew for taking care of the Canadian the Canadian astronaut. And that's, I guess, how I was identified. And because David's family was mainly speaking French.
Of course, right. Well, it's that Quebecois French. It's a weird one. That's
one of the fun part of it.
I
learned a lot of expressions.
My first big film I shot in Montreal, and it was just it's glorious, absolutely glorious. The crew tricked me though. The crew said that once we'd used up a certain number of rolls of film, it was traditional for the actor to buy the crew champagne. That is not a tradition.
Well,
but I bought the entire crew champagne, and I think I spent most of the money I made on that film paying for their damn champagne. But anyway, but no, that's wonderful. All right, okay, that was. Do we know who? I guess was that James Surprise who asked that again. Anyways, Nixie, hello Nixie. Nixie asks, when does Romain think humanity will actually land on the moon again, and if he knows what mission will have to happen after the fly past that's going to happen soon?
Well, I cannot really predict the future. As for the moon, it is planned. We have programs. There is a budget allocated. So, cross fingers. We'll be there in a few years. Be it from the American side or the Chinese side, both of them have said that we will be there in the coming years. So that I don't have too many doubts should come soon.
Okay.
Mars is a different story. And when I was asked this question during Mars 100, I wanted to be optimistic, and I was talking about 2035.
Right.
Let's try to stay optimistic, even though I would push towards 2040 if everything goes well. But I have there is no program yet that has put the money to do it, at least at the national level. We talk about it, we prepare for it. We try to find bricks that would fill those technology gaps that were identified, but there are still so many things that we need to validate and to test on long term that it's hard to tell.
And Mars would be. I mean, Mars. They talk about like living on Mars, and I'm like, well, shouldn't we try landing on it first? I mean, like that's sort of. It's kind of it's like we're skipping the moon landing and just going straight to the habitat. Just seems. I guess it's just because it takes so long to get there, I suppose.
And because you want to, with today's technologies, it would take roughly 8 months to go there, unless you change the kind of thrusters that you use. And if you want to spend as little time as possible in weightlessness, 8 months-ish, if you want to leave Mars and do the trip back in the same amount of time, you need to spend 1.5 years roughly on Mars.
Wow.
So that would be a 3 to 3 years mission. And so that's why you would need a base. Otherwise, you just go. And once again, for the ones who do the maths, please correct me if I'm wrong. But otherwise, you need to just go to Mars and come back directly.
Right
so you
away.
don't even stop. You just go
Right.
around and you come right away to limit the amount of time in weightlessness.
And there's no plans for a fly past like we're doing with the moon of Mars. With manned mission or human missions.
So depends if you talk about private entities or
Oh,
not.
right,
And,
of course, right.
So at the agency level, there is no program that was voted and where budget was allocated to do anything with humans on Mars. It's all about preparing for that, but not doing it yet. So it's hard to tell. I know that in the past, there were a few private companies proposing like a trip back and forth directly for an old couple, because then irradiation is not so much of an issue.
Do I count as old? Do I count as old?
Yeah.
Is that
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
more
because the
than 40
radiation.
years.
What do they say? If you want cancer, you just live long enough. That's just
Exactly.
Eventually the radiation gets to you.
Exactly.
Interesting for an old couple. Wow. Okay.
But that never materialized. It was just an idea that was pushed by some millionaire or billionaire.
Yes, with time on their hands and money. The moon. I mean, the moon is fascinating to me because I feel like I sort of thought we'd already have bases by now. It seemed like we were on such a trajectory there, but we hit that. It's like we hit the AI winter. I think we sort of hit a moon winter, didn't we? Like I feel like it was we sort of stopped throwing people out there. All right, next question is from TR1 Optimum. Troptium. If you could fast track or have a focus brought to one aspect in the space industry, what would you push for? Great question that I don't have to answer.
Yeah. It's a good one. I mean, I'm coming from the exploration side, so I love it. And
right.
I would push for that. But being here in the UK, one of the unicity of this site here is that we have 9 different directorates. So at ESA, a directorate is a big group of people focusing on one big subject: telecommunications, launchers, exploration. What do you have? The business. You have, I mean, all of that. Earth observation.
Right.
It's quite big.
Yeah.
So having talked to all those people, every aspect of space is super important. Earth observation, like for the meteo and for preparing for the climate change and all that. Even for security, knowing what's happening on the ground.
Fires. I mean, everything. Yeah,
telecommunications, exactly. Being able to communicate is pretty important nowadays. And so every directorate has some key elements. I would still stay true to exploration, so I would push for that. But which technology per se? What I like about space exploration is how space constraints make the systems better for Earth. And when we talk about putting a base on the moon, you need to recycle everything. You need to be robust. You need to be easy to maintain. You need to have a very small footprint, because you cannot, bring everything with you. So you need to really be as conservative as possible, low energy and all that. So what I like with exploration is that it then it's easy to transfer those good practices to the technology that we have on Earth. It's not always the case, but at least we can propose some solutions that we need there, but that could be good on Earth. So I would still push for exploration.
It's fantastic because I've gone through different phases of this where I've gone like, I don't think we should be sending people out there. I'm like, we're bags of water. We're not meant to be out there. Let's just do robots, because robots just seem like the smartest way of going. But then someone said that we are the green tendril of Earth. We are Earth sort of reaching out, and not so much like a fungus, but as a natural growth. And as you say, if we want to sustain life on Earth, we can learn a lot by trying to survive in habitats that we should be avoiding on this planet, right? I mean, it's no, it's fantastic. That's great. Okay, a great question, great answer. How are you doing for time, by the way?
I mean, it's not 5 yet on my side, so
Okay,
you
all
tell
right.
me.
If that's okay, I'll yeah. So I'll keep you for we got a few more questions. We'll see you then. But you let me know if you need to go. Okay, so Raven22. Hello, Raven22. I was wondering something. Do you know the vehicles powered by hydrogen made by Roger Billings? I love the idea of the hydrogen powered stuff. And what about the technology? Sorry, what about that technology? What do you think that has for the future? So, hydrogen vehicles, are you doing any sort of vehicle stuff with you?
Some, not that much though.
Mm.
And hydrogen, I wouldn't say that I have a lot of expertise in that. Most of the spacecraft have, and now I forgot pile à combustible in French, but those energy. So you basically, when you have too much energy, you break water molecules, and then you have
Oh,
oxygen and hydrogen.
right,
And when
right,
you need energy, you just recombine them, and you get back some of the energy.
right, right.
And so hydrogen is part of what you can find in a lot of spacecrafts.
Mm.
So it does make sense. Hydrogen is also quite flammable and
Right.
easy to go through every little gap
Yeah,
and to
yeah.
leak. So there are some pros and cons to
Mm.
hydrogen. I don't have enough expertise to develop so much. I don't think I have seen this vehicle that Raven
Roger
22 is
Billings.
talking
Okay,
about.
right. I will look
But
that up because that sounds
yeah,
interesting.
me too.
I love the I love all the like the nuclear batteries and such that they have on these that just seem to that it just seems perfect for space. There's enough,
Mm.
if you're not worried about people, it's they seem amazing
Yes,
too.
but
Again,
you need to send it there.
yeah, that's it. You need to get it there. Exactly. Right. Okay. Chi-Town Deek says, will they have better testers for food in the future? I can't see someone making freeze-dried wine and not taste what they made. Is that just sort of a
So
matter of the best they could do, or?
so the powdered wine was for Mars 100. On the ISS, they are not allowed to have alcohol,
Oh,
and
okay.
so that's a different story.
Mm.
Actually, that's a fun story if you want to look it up. It's linked with the Skylab space station that the US sent in the 70s.
Mm.
But so
What? Someone got drunk
yes,
and out of control or something?
no. It's my understanding. I
Mm.
wasn't there in the 70s to
Mm.
be part of this story, but when the Skylab was created, it was actually the third stage of a Saturn rocket
Mm.
that was repurposed, and astronauts were sent for 3 months to start studying long-term weightlessness and how astronauts would adapt to that.
Mm.
And the food lab, I think, was created around this time, maybe a bit before for Apollo. But they had the task of providing food and enough calories for the astronauts to eat. But
Right.
they prepared good food. It was enough nutrient. They had everything they needed to live, but not enough calories. And they
Mm.
thought, okay, let's put some wine. We'll put some wine in the thing because wine is just
High
calories. It's
calories.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
no nutrient.
Mm.
And then they would have enough nutrient, enough calories to function. And it became public because NASA tells everybody, and some people got offended that taxpayer money was to send some nice wine to the astronauts that could get drunk in space, and that was unacceptable. So there was a big uproar because of that. And
Really?
since then, especially on the NASA side, it is forbidden to even talk about alcohol in space.
Really?
And,
Wow. I mean,
so
I suppose there's two sides to every story.
exactly.
All right. So, sorry, will they have
So
better taste testers for food was the question.
so
I've taken you off topic. Sorry.
yeah, no. The food itself, and I talked about Mars 100. It was kind of specific. The food was not bad per se. It was just long, and the variety was not always there. As for the ISS, the astronauts tested too, and it is good. The astronauts, they like it. Some astronauts have a different test when they arrive in space. They say they cannot taste the food as well as on Earth. Not all of them. So, yes, exactly. And so it's not so much linked with the tester per se, but more by the environment in which they are, and then personal preferences. Some like the leak, and others don't. And when you're on the ISS, you open the bulk overhead bag, and inside you have food items, and you try to finish it before you open the next one. And sometimes toward the end, only the thing that you don't like that much are left.
That's right. It's like those little boxes of cereal, and it's always the cornflakes left at the end because everyone wants the sugared ones, right? Boy, yeah, this is why I'm not in space, because the food, I think, might be an issue for me. All right, I've got extra questions, so I've got 4 more questions. You okay for that? Okay.
Yeah.
Raven22 says, I was also wondering, what was your favorite thing you missed while in the simulation? Oh, wow. You kind of have to say your wife, don't you? Isn't that like...
Well, the thing is, I could communicate with her.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Okay, all right.
What we call in French une relation épistolaire. So through letters, we could communicate.
Épistolaire. It's wonderful. Okay, yeah.
It's old French, I guess.
Yeah.
I remember one craving I had inside Mars 100. So because we're simulating a trip to Mars, we had a luxury. We could take one shower every 10 days. And the rest of the time we could wash with wipes, but that's it.
Right.
And I remember once I just craved having water all around me, jumping the sea, jumping the swimming pool. I just wanted water. And because when I entered those modules, I consciously told myself, okay, if I cannot have something here, I will just find the best place to get it when I exit, and I would just do it. And everything, if I don't have it here, it will be in a year and a half, and that will be fine.
Right.
So when I had this craving, I just thought, okay, when I exit, I will find the best swimming pool in Moscow, and I would jump on it. It will be great. And after 2 days, this craving disappeared, and I didn't have it after again. But yeah, it was strange in a way to have such a craving. And for the story, the first swimming pool I went to was in Germany, in Munich, roughly a month after exited.
A month after? Why, you waited that long? Wow. I've got to say,
busy, too many crazy things.
Yeah, it's true. That is true. You're sniffing flowers and watching dogs. It's, you've got
exactly.
It's funny because when I lived in Los Angeles, I craved the Toronto thunderstorms. I craved the rain and this was before they had those noise machines. So I actually created a loop of rain that I would play at night because I just missed that sound of rain on the roof. It was the weirdest thing, you know?
I had exactly the same. Another of my cravings was the sound of the wind on the wheat field. I grew up in the countryside, and every summer I was going to my uncle who was harvesting wheat, and sometimes I would wait in not a bin, but the tractor's back. There would be nothing around. The harvester was still in another field, so I could hear the wind, and I thought, I didn't bring any sound of nature with me. I was craving this sound in particular, but I didn't have anything. And that was, luckily we had one experiment called Earth of Wellbeing, which was about walking in a park, on a 3D rendered park in the 2010s. So it was visually not great, but it was real sound of nature. So you could hear a stream, and I just loved that. But I didn't have the wind in the field, and that's something that I missed.
That is interesting. So we will need a library of earth sounds for people.
Think so, yes.
I think that's, yeah. I mean, it is weird because that is definitely that's some kind of a primal just desire, or I mean, maybe it's that uncanny valley. You get so far away from nature that it doesn't feel right anymore. Although I think I've got to the point now where when I go to a field like we were in England a little while back, I miss the sound of construction. Where are the sirens? Where's the,
It's
all
so
right.
quiet.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
quiet.
It's too quiet. I don't like it. All right. Nixie says, oh, this is a good question. Did you write a diary while you were inside? And
I did.
did you take books to read? And if you did so, did you swap with everybody else's books?
Yes, we tried. So we didn't swap that much because most of our books were in our native languages.
Oh, of course, right.
And
yeah.
nobody else could read that much French.
Right.
So yes, to answer all the questions, I try to write a diary. I have still in mind the idea of writing something out of it. And
I feel like that's a perfect book right there, isn't it? I mean,
so I tried once, and I have 270 pages that I proposed to an editor, and he came back to me saying, "Yeah, I feel like I'm reading an engineer's report," and it was a slap in a way because I put my all into that, but I could take it because I am an engineer. So okay, I can take this one.
Well, maybe you need you should talk to Agnes about this because she writes. I mean, she's, you need a little bit of, it's funny. I had a friend of mine gave me a business proposal that he was working on. He wanted us to have a look at. It's amazing, but there is a part of me that keeps going like, it could be a little fancier because I've got the, because I'm more on the made up side, right? So there's that. It's interesting though. So I would be fascinated by that. Like, I think that would be if you could somehow merge that with maybe some to take it away from just pure engineering, perhaps. But that's interesting.
So the guy gave me some feedback, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And I didn't really take it seriously. And a few years later, I said, okay, let's go back to it. And I studied actually what makes a good story, what kind of storyline would make sense for such a story. And I ended up recreating a whole different skeleton for the whole story that needs to be filled now. And it is exactly what the guy told me.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. It's so hard though, because it's so personal, right? Like it's like people always send me stuff for notes, and I'm always like, do you want notes? Like, do you really want notes? Because if you really want notes, you have to have such a thick skin about it. Like, it's because it's, you pour this stuff out, and no one wants to hear. Everyone wants to hear that it's the best thing ever. So
exactly.
That's amazing. I've got there was another a friend of mine, Marlene, who works at oh god, I can't remember where, but again at NASA and or with NASA adjacent type stuff, and she was working on a book as well, and I just think there's so much. In a way, the advantage of a book seems to be, yes, people will read it, but it's also a great excuse to get out there and present and do the science communication to people, as well.
Yes, indeed. And so I didn't abandon yet.
Oh, good.
Since then, I got a little one, so I'm a bit.
Oh my God! Okay, forget it. Never mind. Yeah, no, that's great. You could do once they're at university. All of a sudden, you find yourself going like, "Well, now what do I do?" That's when What did you read while you were there? What books were you reading? Yeah.
A very good question. I actually brought all the books that I told myself when I have time, I would read that. Well, Perfect. Guess what? I had time. So I read some technical books, but one of the books that was the most like an epiphany in a way was Histoire de l'art, so Story of Art from Sir Ernest Gombrich. So a professor. And I just, because I'm more on the technical side, and I grew up in the countryside, so I'm not used to go to museums and concerts and all that.
Yeah.
But the way he tells the story of art and how it is related to the time when it was created, those new the perspective and the clair-obscur and on all those layers, little by little. Creating the art that we know today, I just loved it. I thought I would do one chapter, and I would push myself to read one chapter every month to be able to finish it before the end. I started, and within 2 weeks I had finished, and I just loved it.
I love it. It is this is the thing, isn't it? It's just that, it science shouldn't be pure science. Art shouldn't be pure art. There is a science to art and an art to science, and you find inspiration in both of them. It's weird to me that the school system tends to push people either into the arts or the sciences, because I feel like there's this wonderful mixing that happens, if you let it. So, all right, great. So that was the book that stood out for you. What was the technical stuff you were, just because I'm a nerd? What technical stuff are you looking at?
I don't have it. It's in a bookshelf downstairs. It was a book written by Bernd Messerschmitt, the German astronaut. I think the title is just Space Stations. And he goes through all the aspects of space station, from thermal control to power management to data management to life control.
I'd have thought you'd got enough of that in your day job for that. If you're in one.
I was arriving from the automotive industry. I thought, if I want a job in that, I should at least get some education there. So I read that, and
was that a page turner, or were you do the hard work?
It was not as much a page turner as Histoire de l'Art. So it took me a bit longer to get through the whole thing. It was a bit drier, let's say, but very interesting.
That's neat. That's neat. I love that you've got one that's completely removed and one that is exactly what you're involved in. So, all right, we're the last two questions here. We've got Andre Edward Cooksack. Wow. Welcome. Beyond food. What non-essential luxury item or simple concept proved most vital to morale in space isolation?
There are more than one, but one I like very much is just before, I would say two, but it's linked with the same person. Last time I went to France, I was selected to do the whole mission. So I was sent back to France for a few days to grab my stuff and quit my job and do all that. And on the last day, my family, and especially my little sister, created some, ad hoc event. Everybody who's around come and say, let's goodbye. And in one of the room, in the living room of my parents, she prepared envelopes. One envelope per month, and everybody could go and write a little message that they would put on any envelope they wanted to. And at the end, she closed everything and she gave me all the envelopes, and she told me open it only on the months where it's written there. And each month I was just opening, and I could see pictures from my childhood that was linked with this month in particular, and messages that friends had written 1 month before, 8 months before, a year and a half before, and they were all written on the same day. So they had some kind of thread and storyline between all of them. And it was a pleasure to have that. And all the pictures, I would put them on the wall of my little cabin. And so that helped a lot.
You got a much nicer sister than I do. Mine would have just sent insults every month, different insults.
Well, some of the friends wrote that kind of thing.
Oh, okay, right.
and
that's
on
brilliant.
Top of that,
that's brilliant.
She gave me a box with plenty of stuff for crafting, some craft. So Play-Doh, some color pens, some paint, some special paper, like a soft one.
Any origami paper?
Origami paper. So she gave me this one, and I said, I have a shoebox I can bring inside. I will not be able to bring that. I said, just in case, take it if you have enough space in your big luggage, or otherwise it's fine, don't worry.
Right.
And because I kind of smuggled a few things, I did smuggle this one, and it proved very important. First, for Christmas, we didn't have any Christmas tree, so thanks to that, we could cut in some cardboard a tree, and with the paint we could make
that was your Christmas tree? Oh wow. Yeah.
And so we did that with the commander. We spent like 2 or 3 hours assembling and trying to find a way to make it look good, and so it's thanks to her and to all those little tools that she brought. And another one I think which was the most important, a year and a few months into the study, I passed in front of the kitchen, and one of the crew members was sitting there, and it was kind of down in a way. And I said, are you okay? What's happening? I said, fine, no, I don't know what to do. I said, well, don't you want to read? Usually he would like to read books. Don't you want to read? I said, no, I don't have anything nice to read. Do you want to watch a video together? And no, I don't really want. And I went through a video game, like everything. And I went to the little box and I checked, do you want to do origami? No, no, no. And then, do you want to do some Play-Doh? And I said, like, yeah, I'd be happy to do some Play-Doh. And so I brought the Play-Doh, and I did the only thing I could do with the Play-Doh, which is a snail. And we just played with our hands and talked a little bit, and after that it was better. So thanks to that, to those once again creativity tools, I think it helped to go through a more difficult time for at least one of the crew members. So yeah, those two things, and thanks to the same person, to my little sister, were quite important, and I didn't even imagine that it would be important for entering. Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't, would you? It's just the sort of stuff you don't consider until you're actually faced with that kind of a situation. Wow, that's great. We've got to talk again at some point, because this is amazing. Okay. We're on space. Okay, so last question. Go for Fluffernut asks. Hello, Go for Fluffernut. What was the hardest challenge? Everyone's obsessed with this. What was the hardest challenge during that year and a half? I think we sort of touched on this.
We touched on it. So just looking at the time, I have two periods. Usually it was a period of time that were a bit more difficult, but I will go down one of them, and later on maybe the second one.
Yeah.
But one of them was roughly 1 year inside the modules. We had spent 365 days ish. So it was May, June 2011. And I received a lot of messages from friends and family saying, "Yeah, great, 1 year, continue like that. It's amazing." And because the European Space Agency would send some questions that journalists may have, we received a lot of questions from journalists saying, "Oh, great, 1 year. So tell us what happened during that year, and how do you foresee the 155 days ahead of you?"
Oh, God.
And looking at what happened during that year is looking at everything that happened outside during that whole year. One of the big changes that I entered the modules, I was a brother. I exited, I was an uncle. And
wow.
Like my first niece was born when I was inside the modules.
Wow.
And so, it's not always great. It weighs on the shoulders a little bit. And 155 days ahead, that's more than 5 months.
Yeah.
That's not a small period of time to be confined. So by asking those questions, they oblige us to, at least me, to look at the big picture. And that's something that we were not doing. We're living in the present, like 1 week ahead, and that's it. So looking at the big picture made me a bit more grumpy, less patient with the others.
They made you grumpy. All right. Okay.
Yeah. It was not feeling good.
Right.
So that was one of the hard periods.
That was the biggest challenge. That's interesting. I mean, I guess that's the halfway point, right? That's where you're sort of stuck.
It's a bit more than halfway point, but
yeah.
Halfway was Mars. So it was great.
Right. Of course. Oh, yeah. Then that changes things. Look, I will not keep you any longer. I can't believe we've been talking for 2 hours. Romain, absolutely fantastic. Is there anything you want to share with people? Is there anywhere you'd like me to send people? Is there anything you'd like people to be looking at?
Looking at the sky, be interested,
I love
be curious. I'm happy to answer any question if you have some.
Right.
As I told you before, if you start me on space, I can.
Oh,
that's
fantastic.
Actually, that's one of my superpower I discovered during Mars 100. I don't get bored of things I like.
Yeah, me too.
Really. So I could keep forever.
That's amazing. Well, good, because we'll have to have you come back and talk to us again, because there's all sorts of there's many things to talk about. Romain, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for the fantastic questions. Agne, thank you for handling all of that. And I will say my usual, be brave, be kind, be brilliant. And until we geek again, cheerio. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Ending the stream.